Yo, it is me, the absolute legend Social Duck. Back from the dead after like 2 years. Yeah, it's me, the one who made the really shitty videos back in the day. This motherfucker, just now with purple hair and pronouns. So I'm kind of in a bit of a weird spot here because I feel the need to explain myself at least a little bit for anyone who isn't really caught up with me, even though most people who are going to be watching this are just friends anyway who don't need any kind of introduction. But regardless, if you were for some reason a fan of my old content, which has now been scrubbed from the internet, thank you very much, because it was shit. This is not that. Basically what I wanted to do here, so the Owl House is my favorite thing like ever, and if you don't know what it is a Disney cartoon that started airing in January of 2020. It has been like my favorite thing of all time since like October of 2021. You would very much know this if you follow my Twitter account. I am like the biggest nerd of all time, and I just utterly fucking adore it. If you, for some reason, haven't seen it, Anyway, so last Saturday, the 21st, the second episode of the shortened season 3 for the show, for the feature came out, and I really want to talk about it, and I have decided that I'm gonna do it in a video. This is kind of late to start doing Owl House related videos because the show has like 3 months left in its lifespan, but I never said I was smart, so okay, so the way that I wanted to do this, because this is going to be extremely in-depth because I am a giant fucking nerd, so I just wanted to do it in the very basic premise of I'm going to talk about the good stuff first, the stuff that I'm mixed on, and then the bad stuff. Let's just get it out of the way first and foremost. This episode is a fucking banger. However, it has a lot of issues in my opinion. Honestly, the thing with season 3 of the Owl House so far is that it has been massively flawed in my opinion, but it's also been mostly great, and I do think that the crew has been doing a great job with what they've been given. Mostly. There are inevitably pacing issues, there's like a lot of stuff, but we'll get into all of that. So, diving into the episode, I need to get it out of the way right now. This episode's opening is fucking perfection. I was literally dying watching this. Like, you should have seen me. I was like, I was just going out of my fucking mind. Not only is it just awesome with how this episode connects with King's Tide, I think it's really cool in that regard, and how we get to see exactly what happened from both perspectives. This serves as such a really cool opening for so many reasons. It establishes the Collector, like his relationship with King, thinking of him as like a best friend. We get introduced to the idea of the collector turning everybody into puppets, which when I first saw that in the trailer for this episode, I was so fucking excited. Okay, it's such a creepy concept, but it's exactly the kind of thing that I wanted going into this episode. I theorized for such a long time that the collector was going to be doing some kind of thing. My personal thing, the thing that I wanted the most, was something almost like WandaVision-esque, essentially where everybody is being mind controlled into like playing this specific role, and they're like fully conscious in all of this, but they are being forced into it. And that's essentially what they went with, except with the much more creepy visuals of everybody being fucking puppets. And it's so cool. It honestly very much surprises me that they were able to get away with this, because there was this short from back in the day that Disney deemed too I guess scary to be on the network. It basically had Tiny Nose being turned into a doll by like this creepy doll shop person, and that's like such a similar concept to this, so I'm really surprised that wasn't allowed to air, but this is. But maybe it has to do with the fact that they specifically said in this episode that the people aren't being hurt when they're in the puppet form. I don't know. But the thing that I utterly just adore about this opening is, like, from the moment that Ida's Requiem starts playing, I was fucking dying. Now, if you're a follower of my Twitter, you'll know this, but Ida's Requiem is personally, not only is it my favorite piece of music to come from this show, it is probably my favorite song to come from any piece of media ever. I genuinely want Ida's Requiem to play at my funeral. I am not fucking kidding. Like, I have a whole video planned on the meaning behind it and just how perfectly tragic and beautiful it is as a melody and how they use it in this show. But I was fucking dying. It is such a beautiful way to open this episode, and I specifically remember saying months ago that I wanted, after we got the remixed intro music for Thanks to Them, that for the future should have an opening with Ida's Requiem in it, and I'm so happy that we got that. Not to mention that it's just a fucking banger remix. It's so good. And then beyond the music, Harpy Ida immediately taking off to go and get King is so fucking epic and awesome, and I adore it. This little look that Rain gives Ida is so cute, but it's also so perfect and so thematically resonating, because again, Ida, she attempted to hide her curse for so many years, and it was her being ostracized from society, and her parents, or well, her mom, specifically, putting in this mindset to her that she has to be like ashamed of it and everything like that, and also her viewing herself as a burden and everything that happened with her dad that caused her to attempt to hide this curse from Rain for, it's implied to be like a decade. And it was her lying about this and her refusing to open up to them that ultimately caused the end of their relationship, because Rain understandably felt like they didn't really know her, and it just drove a wedge between them. And even though they still loved each other, they couldn't really keep going because Ida wasn't confiding in them, and Ida was just lying to them all the time. And to see the fact that Rain is so beautifully mesmerized by Ida's curse, it's beautiful. It's so good. I love it so fucking much. And also the fact that they added this like filter when Rain was looking at her, which is very, very reminiscent of the filter that they used for like the Lumity scene in Knock Knock on Who's Door, but it's much more red and it has like those circles in it, which is very reminiscent of their Requiem scene from Ida's Requiem, like when all of the glowy pink and red circles were everywhere. It's so fucking perfect. I love it. this scene is so good. I also just want to add here, this shot is fucking adorable, and I love it. Just in general, the cinematography for this scene is fucking awesome. Just, I adore the way that everything looks. Having all of the rocks and like all the different pieces of the Titan skull all gradually going up into the new castle, and Ida having to like avoid all of these, all while like all the different color stars are all raining down on the Day of Unity pedestal and everything, and they're all exploding everywhere. It's so cool. I love it. And this was also such a cool way of showing how the Boiling Isles changed, like how the collector was changing everything. Although I will say it's a little bit funny with like the social media feed, #help. Like, I also just love how the owl beast starts to come out after seeing the collector. I think that's so cool. Obviously, that relates back to the dream sequence back in Knock 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 on Hootie's door, where we learned that the collector was the one who captured the owl beast, turned it into the curse, and then Lilith cursed Ida. So I think it's so fucking cool that the owl beast starts to like emerge again after sensing this creature that is responsible for both its and Ida's pain for the past 30 years. Like, I think that's really fucking cool. This opening is not only my favorite scene from this whole episode, because it's so perfect in so many ways. It's easily one of my favorite scenes from the entire show. I love it so fucking much. So after that masterpiece of an opening, we get to cut back to what the Hex Squad are doing. Luce is temporarily trapped inside of the In-Between Realm, and this is actually like a really cool thing. This kind of cleared up an issue that I had with what happened in Thanks to Them, because I thought that them using exclusively Titan blood to make a portal was pretty cheap and quick and felt really rushed and almost like it contradicted the lore. But it does seem like if you do it that way, it lands you in the In-Between Realm, which could be like an unstable portal. So I'm good with that. I also love how they come out in the same exact place where Ida first found the portal back in the flashback from Keeping Up Appearances. That's probably significant in some way, I'm sure. As for the little Titan dude that Luce saw while she was in there, honestly, I have no clue what it is. I mean, obviously it's a Titan, but like, I have no clue what that's gonna end up being. The only thing that I'm pretty confident about with that is that that Titan has some kind of control over what's happening, because if you remember back into Thanks to Them there were multiple times where like the wind was being weird. It opened the door to the shack to give Amity the idea to like go and explore Gracefield. And then it also just so happened to blow masks of King and Hootie right to Lucent Hunter's feet. And we know that in the Demon Realm, the Titan can have an influence on things. It is heavily implied that it hid the glyphs from Philip and that it basically gave the glyphs to Luce. So I'm assuming that that Titan was behind the wind being weird, and Thanks to Them, especially because he's on the top of the In-Between Realm, and we know that, like, it's a bit hard to describe, but one side of it is the Demon Realm, the other side is the Human Realm side, and since Luce is pulled through the Demon Realm side, the other side would be the Human Realm side, so it would make sense that that Titan has control over stuff in the Human Realm. Now, another like really awesome thing that this episode does, in my opinion, is a lot of the stuff with Belos is so fucking cool. Now, there's not as much as I would like. I don't know, Thanks to Them kind of had this issue too, and my biggest issue with Thanks to Them was that it did not explore Belos enough. Basically, Belos's like whole view of things should have changed, or there should have at least been some kind of exploration of his character, because this is a dude who spent like 400 years thinking that witches were pure evil, that they all needed to die, and that he was going to wipe them all out and then come back home to a world similar to how he left it and be welcomed back as a witch hunter general. So when he goes back to a world that not only doesn't persecute witches anymore, but also actively kind of celebrates them, like with Halloween and whatnot, he should at least have some kind of feelings about that. And they should be showing us that, because that is such a massive part of his character. I would imagine that he would at least lose some kind of faith in humanity, or he would think that humanity needs to be like purified and that their souls have been corrupted and they need to be saved or whatnot like that. But we never get any of that. And for me, I really wish that we got that. And it's a similar thing here, kind of. But I will say, I think that a lot of the stuff with Bellows is great. The scene with him in the forest where he's like hallucinating Caleb and you see like the bloody knife there and he's like lashing out at Caleb and he's like, "Oh, don't mock me. I tried to save your soul. This is all your fault." That is awesome. And I just adore it. And then the scene with all of the, where he's like hallucinating all of the Grim Walkers and everything, that's so fucking cool as well. Now, if I had to nitpick just a little bit, unfortunately, if you look closely, every Grimwalker there is, they're like doubled, like there's 2 of each. It kind of annoys me just a little bit, but I try not to think about it, because I get what they were going for. That is just so fucking cool as well. And I love that he's like falling apart and everything. They really leaned into the horror elements with Bellows in this episode, which was so fucking cool. Bellows personally is one of my favorite villains in any piece of media ever, and so like really anything that we get with him is awesome, and I love him. I love him so much. Another thing that I really want to touch on in this is I adore what they did with Willow in this episode. It completely caught me off guard. I honestly thought we were not going to get any like big exploration for Willow the rest of the season, series, because this is the last season. I kind of thought that they were just done with that, but it caught me off guard so much. But I love what they did with her. It's such a fitting and great final exploration for her character. I love how they're finally like really exploring how she puts on this like tough persona and tries to be reliable for her friends, but that's not really a healthy thing to bottle up all of your emotions like that. That's not healthy, and at some point you're going to have a breakdown like she does in this episode, and I think that's really cool. And I also love that Camila, who also is pretty similar to her in quite a few ways in terms of like bottling up her true feelings, like with her like secret nerdiness and whatnot. She's the one to reach out and be like, "Hey, are you good?" And it's cool. It's so fucking cool. And the way that this plays into Huntlow as well is awesome. I love that at the end of this episode, she's finally not like repressing her emotions anymore, and that's when we finally get to see the blush, That's when she's finally blushing and she's like opening up to Hunter a lot more. We had some like flirting in the past, but it was not anywhere near as direct as it is in this episode, and it's really cool. I love what they did with Willow in this episode. I would assume we're done now with Willow, though. Like, obviously she'll appear, but I just mean in terms of like full-on exploration of her character, I think we're probably done now. This was such a fitting way to end things for her character. I love it wholeheartedly. And touching on Huntlow, that also brings me to the stuff with Hunter in this episode. I really like it. I was kind of mixed on a few decisions from thanks to them. There's still some things with his arc that I'm a little bit wary of, and it will depend how they end it for me to like see how exactly they go with this. Like, for example, he got Flapjack's magic and everything, but then they changed his eyes to look brown, and that makes him look even more like Caleb. Not to mention they brought his hair back, like he cut it so that to not look like Bellows and to not look like Caleb, and then they brought it back to full length. And it kind of seems a little bit counterproductive when part of his whole arc is getting away from that, you know, like choosing your own identity, choosing what you want to be in this world. And I don't really understand why they did that. Again, that's one of those things where I'm like, we'll have to see what the end game is. But I really like that they went a route with this. One thing that's cool about this episode is that they don't immediately just like move on from Thanks to Them, and that's one thing that's cool. This, like, for example, with Luce, by the time this episode starts, it's literally been like a couple hours at most by like when they went through the portal. So of course it makes sense that her whole guilt complex, her whole I don't know if I would, yeah, no, I mean, it's trauma. Her whole thing about like wanting to stay in the human realm, of course that's not going to be perfectly resolved yet, and I like that they carry that into this episode. I also like that with Hunter, the lingeringness of like Flapjack's death, because again, that literally happened hours ago by this time, so of course it's going to be affecting him. And one thing that I do really like with this is that after this, you know, like when Hunter's like really going through it, he very much seems very, very aggressive and cold. And to me, okay, I notice a very similar pattern here. I notice that this behavior seems to be pretty close to how he acted in Hunting Talisman and like other times back when he was in the Coven. And so to me, that really points to like when he's not truly happy, it's very easy for him to fall into behavior like this that's much more cold or aggressive. And I don't know, I think that's really cool that we're seeing that aspect of his character again, but like in a different perspective. But yeah, no, the Huntlow stuff is perfect for that. Now, him getting magic on his own, after Thanks to Them aired, I was worried that they were going to go this route. I was honestly convinced that I would hate it, and I know that there's been kind of like a lot of debate in the fandom right now about whether this is like a cure the disability trope, because Hunter being a powerless witch, well, you know, originally said to be a powerless witch, he's a Grimwalker, powerless, doesn't naturally have magic, is very much seen as like a disability metaphor for a lot of people, similar to how Ida's curse is a metaphor for disability or mental illness. Honestly, the way that they did it, I think I'm fine with it. Again, there's still some things that I'm kind of like, we will have to see how they end it. However, as long as he doesn't end up getting like full magic, you know, casting the spell circles, doing like plant magic, doing whatnot, I think I'm fine. The fact that this is basically just the exact same abilities that he could do with Flapjack, just now naturally on his own because Flapjack is in him, I don't really see that as like a curing the disability trope. A lot of people have compared it to more like the equivalent of like a deaf person using a hearing aid or like a cochlear implant. That's more of like how I'm seeing it, because it's not like an instant cure-all. If we're looking at it through the lens of Flapjack being his disability aid, Flapjack is still basically his disability aid, just like in a different way. If we were to make it so that Hunter has complete magic now, well then that's kind of bullshit, because that's not something that Flapjack could do before, you know what I mean? Like, that's where it would be like, now you're like just completely undoing the powerless witch thing. So I think I'm good with it. I really do think I'm good with it. And also, I just want to say that like Gus, Hunter, and Camila all bonding over Cosmic Frontier is awesome and just adorable, and I love it. I also just want to say that I fucking adore Lucis Talisman a ton. They've been making us wait so fucking long for this. They've teased us since Hunting Talisman as to what this was going to be, and then they did the fake out at the end of O Titan Where Art Thou, and we were all like, oh, what's it going to be? And then she carved a fucking egg that took another 3 episodes to hatch. So I'm so happy that we're finally getting it now. I'm so happy that they didn't wait until the finale, because I want significant time to actually see this in action, and I think that it's so cool. It's so fitting for her character, and I think that the way that the Talisman is able to choose what it wants to be, similar to how Luce is also gonna get to choose what she wants to be, and she's still mapping out her own future. I think that that's so cool. I also just think that just in general, well, first of all, Stringbean is a fucking adorable name, but also I love the magic effects that they're going with this. the purple beam that she shoots with like the black sparkles looks so fucking cool. It's an awesome thing. I really hope that we get a dedicated fight scene between her and Bellos in the finale, because we didn't really get to see it in action this episode, but I adore it. I think that it is so cool. They handled it so well. And the scene right before it hatches with Camila and Luz is so fucking good. They've done Camila so well in this. Like, that's easily one of the best things about season 3 so far, is that Camila has gotten such a spotlight, and I love it. They've really just highlighted so well how good of a mother she is, and also really given much more context and much more exploration to her previous mistakes and why exactly she wanted to send Luz to the Think Inside the Box camp, the summer camp. And it's so cool. And also just exploring how she like really regrets that, and her finally talking to Luz about that and really opening up to her about how everybody messes up and how that shouldn't be something that keeps her from being happy, or that keeps her from moving on in life, or that isolates her from her friends and her loved ones. Just, it's so fucking good. And that being the key to finally realizing, for Luz to finally realize that like she just wants to be understood, and that's what she's always wanted. It's so good. It's so good. And then that of course unlocks the talisman, and it's just a banger, and I love it. Also, this right here is one of the best shots in the entire series. Honestly, the cinematography for this entire episode is top notch. I also just want to say I love all of the background details in this episode. I went through with my friend Moom after the episode, and we were just looking for all of the background things, and it was so fun. And just the little things that they slip in there. I mean, that's kind of the case for like every Owl House episode, but just it's cool how they did it here. Like, for example, on the Owl House, someone graffitied "kiss my grass." Someone just said like bad word, and there's just things around. I don't know. It's cool. Another thing that I really love and appreciate is how many direct callbacks there are in this episode. I am not gonna go through every single one, but just it's something that I really love. You know, Luz and Willow referencing Understanding Willow with the whole line about like no ruses, no shenanigans, everything like that. The fact that like the whole plan to get to the head is the glyph from Elsewhere and Elsewhere, which by the way, that's an episode I just adore. But yeah, when I saw that that's what the plan was, I was like, oh my god, that's like so fucking smart, and that's like such a cool way to like combine everything. There's so many, and it's so cool. It's something that I really love. On top of that, this episode has like a ton of really funny jokes, and Sarah Nicole Robles especially gives so many like really funny deliveries.
Not the reaction I was expecting. I missed a lot!
Like, it stood out to me a lot. She did such a good job as Luz in this episode. Oh, and one other thing, I just want to throw this out there. This scene here is fucking adorable and just heartwarming as hell. Okay, so the stuff that I'm mixed on in this episode, a couple major things come to mind. I would say the first thing is the rain possession, because, okay, it's a little bit weird to me. To me, it just feels kind of repetitive. Rain at this point has been captured or brainwashed so many times, and this just doesn't feel original. Now, okay, before anyone says anything, yes, I realize that when they were captured in Edith's Requiem, and then we were led to believe that they were brainwashed, like that wasn't like a true brainwashing. Rain was manipulating the situation for intel and whatnot, and they were faking it. But the thing is that we were led to believe that that was a true brainwashing for like 5 episodes straight. So even if that wasn't an actual brainwashing, the dramatic potential, like the dramaticness of all of this, you know, like the effect on the audience of thinking that Rain was brainwashed, we already got that for a long time in season 2B. So this still feels repetitive, even though this is a true possession brainwashing and that wasn't. Not to mention that we just got a possession plotline last episode. It's just weird. Like, I don't know. We will see how things end. I will say the design is awesome. Let me say they are quite hot. Sorry, let a little bit of my fruitiness slip there. My bad. Look, man, you can't blame me, okay? Everyone, this fucking show is hot as hell, okay?
I mean, you wouldn't have sex with her, would you?
Oh, yeah, I would.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I would do everything to her. I don't care what she looks like. I would wreck that chick.
Anyway, I don't know. We will see. It kind of feels like they just kind of pulled this out of their ass so that they could have some Rada angst. But I don't know. We will see. I do like the hairstyle. I hope they keep that after. I just think it's funny that for some reason every time Bellows possesses somebody, it just leaves them with longer hair. But anyway, the other thing I would say, I don't know if I would say I'm mixed on it, but I would just say it worries me a little bit, is that it feels like they're going a bit of a different direction with the Collector, and it feels like they're kind of trying to put an emphasis on the fact that they are not really hurting people. And I don't know, we will see how it plays out, especially with the fact that they're like, oh, I want to play a new game. I hope that we get to see the side of them that we saw in season 2B, because that's that version of the Collector. And I'm not gonna say it's like totally inconsistent now. It's just, it feels like they're doing something a bit different, and we will see how they go with it. But I found the way that they acted in 2B to be much more interesting and much more compelling. And they were just like really scary back then. Like, they were so, I don't know, like, I instantly fell in love with them because there was something really endearing about them, despite how fucked up it was. Like, because it was basically like this super mischievous, malicious child who views everything as a game, views everyone, including mortal beings, as his own personal play toys, and does not give a fuck about mass genocide as long as he's entertained and he gets to be free and play. And it's just, I don't know, there was something really threatening about him back then, and I feel like that's not quite there. We will see, because there is a point to be made that they could have been manipulated by Bellows. And another major thing is also that it's not like they were in for the cause back then. You know, it's, again, he was laughing at mass genocide, and he was like apathetic to it, kind of like he just wanted to be like entertained. He didn't like believe in Bellows' whole thing to wipe out everybody. So it makes sense that once he's in control, his view of things would be much different. But I don't know, the way that they're going with it seems a little bit like they're infantilizing him much more than they used to. I see people basically being like, oh, because we got like background details that seem to imply that he was banished or otherwise had kind of like bad relations with the other members of his race. And I see people being like, oh, what if he was banished because he didn't want to hurt mortals? And it's like, bro, what? Like, he ended Bellows in an instant, laughed about it, and then was like seconds away from murdering the entire Hex Squad before King jumped in. He laughed about mass genocide. He laughed about catching the owl beast. He thought that Belos making Grimwalkers and then murdering them was fun. Like, if you're gonna say that he cares about harm to mortals, that's a pretty blatant inconsistency in my opinion, unless they give like an actual reason for it. The stuff that I have issues with in this episode. Okay, so there's kind of a lot, which is a shame, to be honest. I need to get it out of the way, first of all, that this episode, how it uses its time is frankly kind of atrocious at times. This is the penultimate episode of the entire series, and I don't understand why some characters got so much screen time. For example, it was really cool to see Bartholomew again. It was really cool to see Basha again. It was cool to see Kikimora again. Like, I don't mind seeing these characters again whatsoever. Don't get me wrong. I think that's actually, like, it's a good thing to see them again. And they did have some kind of cool interactions. But they put so much focus on them. And, bro, Ida, one of the 3 main characters of this entire show, she has like 3 scenes, while Basha gets so much more. Like, I don't know the exact calculations, but I am pretty damn sure that Basha and Bartholomew both have at least 2 times as much screen time that Ida does, if not more. And it's like, I don't understand. Like, I like Bartholomew as a character. I think his interactions with Gus are cute. I'm a Gus Bartholomew shipper. But I don't understand why you focused so much on this. And it's much worse with Basha, in my opinion, because it's like, bro, the exploration of the bully character that nobody likes in universe or out. I mean, I'm sure there are some Basha people out there, but like, I feel like this is the textbook definition of something that you cut when you don't have enough time. I don't know why they decided to focus so much on Basha. Again, this is the penultimate episode. This whole season is the last time that you can possibly show us these characters, unless Disney decides to stop being homophobic and gives us a fucking spin-off or comic series. And it's like, I was totally good with Ida not showing up in Thanks to Them, because I totally thought that these 2 episodes were going to be the ones that had a fuck ton of Ida in them. But no, we barely get any Ida in this, besides the beautiful opening that I adore. We barely get any Lilith. We barely get any Hootie. It's like, why? Like, why are you doing this? Why? Like, you guys are so limited on time, and you decided to focus on these mega minor characters in the grand scheme of things. It's really jarring, and it's really bad. Again, I'm not saying remove Bartholomew and Basha completely. I think that if you had, like, you can have Basha as the leader of Hexside, whatever, and you can have her play into the Willow keeping all her feelings in arc and whatnot. But why the fuck does she have this whole ass, like, character arc in this episode? Like, did anyone ask for this? I don't understand. And I will say also, again, I don't mind seeing Kikimora again, but I do find it weird that they treat her like this massive villain, because in my opinion, they did not do enough in this episode to really make her feel like a threat, and I kind of feel like she's overstayed her welcome by this point. The fight with her kind of felt really similar to the fight with her in Clouds on the Horizon, and they didn't do enough to change things up to make it significantly different. Yes, character development has happened since then for Luce, Willow, Hunter, everybody, but like, not in a way that significantly changes how that fight played out. We don't even get to see Luce like actually fighting Kikimora with her new palisman. Really the only thing that Luce does with her palisman in this episode is use it to help her draw the massive glyph on the ground. So it's weird. It feels repetitive, and I don't really know why the show seems like they want me to treat Kikimora like this big threat when we've seen this before. And another thing to add on to this whole thing about them not using their time properly. So as much as I wholeheartedly adore the opening to this episode, I desperately wish it was longer, because the events that happen in between that and then when we see Ida and King again, they are very, very messy. They're not, it's not super clear what happened, and they don't devote the time to showing us. The biggest hint that we have for it is this one credits image, which I believe that the credits are meant to be depicting canon events. And this looks so fucking compelling. So fucking compelling. Like, and I'm just like, guys, why didn't you show this? Like, we basically just had a hint that Ida went full Owl Beast mode, and then they said that instead of staying full Owl Beast mode, that King was able to get the Collector to unpuppify Lilith, and then they were able to work on elixirs, and she was able to go back into her human form. But that all happens off screen, bro. Do you guys not think that it would be compelling to show King actively losing his mom as she turns into the full Owl Beast again and gets like put away by the Collector? Like, all of this is off screen, and it's so frustrating. I wanted to see all of this. They showed the one scene in the trailer, you know, this one here.
You look fun. Wanna play?
And when I first saw that, I was so fucking hyped, but I didn't think that that would be the end of the scene. But it is, and it's like, guys, why did you do it this way? Why did we trade out the dramatic potential of King losing his mom for fucking Basha? Like, it's so annoying to me. I'm like, guys, you guys used your time here atrociously. Like, I don't know, it really frustrates me. And we have 55 minutes left of this entire show, and Ida has like 3 minutes of screen time, maybe not even that. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, and honestly, this might be my biggest issue with the episode, and it's gonna take a little bit of time to explain, but I really don't like the direction that they went with Ida in this episode, and it's really difficult to fully like articulate, but I basically feel like they went the direction with this that had the absolute least potential for drama or like character exploration, which really, really annoys me, because the main issue with it, the main thing that it comes down to, is that I really don't think that they should have let King and Ida be able to talk openly through the few months of the time skip, because it essentially gets rid of all possible drama. Ida is able to talk to King, so she actively knows that King is basically safe. And because King saw Luce and the Hex Squad go through the portal, King obviously told Ida that they are safe in the human realm. So Ida in this episode is basically just chill. Like, there's no, like, she doesn't even really seem that distressed over anything, because her loved ones are safe, pretty much. I mean, King is safe, Luce is away, and she misses her, of course, but she's safe. Lilith is safe now because she was unpuppeted off screen. So I don't know, it's just, it's weird. It's a weird direction. And what I personally was really expecting, and what I personally think would have been so much better, is if Ida and King were not able to talk between those few months. Because that basically makes it so that Ida has no idea if her kids are safe. She has no idea if King is dead. She has no idea if Luce is dead. And that there would be essentially, because let's think back to Ida's Requiem, okay? Ida's Requiem is one of my personal favorite episodes. And in that episode, she was willing to essentially throw her life away because she got overwhelmed with such a feeling of worthlessness and inferiority because she thought that her kids were going to leave her and that they didn't need her. And that was so compelling in that episode. She kind of, without getting into all the nuance, she kind of almost basically became suicidal out of fear of being alone again and her loved ones leaving her. And this here would have been that concept taken to the extreme, because now not only is it just, oh, they are probably going to leave me, it's they are gone and I don't know if they are dead or not, which honestly, it had so much potential for a broken Ida, an apocalypse Ida, a potentially suicidal Ida, which, yes, that's really, really dark, but it would definitely be in character and would definitely be, like, dramatic. And there was so much potential for it. It was, and not to mention that when King and Ida did reunite, that gives the potential for such a good, powerful reunion between the two of them. I wholeheartedly expected that Luce would reunite with, like, Ida in this episode, and then maybe the two of them are going and they find King in the final one. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, this doesn't go exactly to my expectations, so it's automatically bad. But I do genuinely believe that this kind of direction would have put so much more drama into all this. It would have raised the stakes and would have made everything so much more heartbreaking. If Ida was genuinely at, like, such a broken point because the people that she loves the most are potentially dead and she's, like, actively having breakdowns and, like, having to confide in Lilith, that would have been so compelling and would have made their inevitable reunion so much more powerful. I'm sure Ida and Luce's reunion is going to be fantastic, but I do think that if they went this way, it would have been much more hard-hitting. So I don't know, it frustrates me because it feels like there was so much potential for stuff they could do with Ida's character, and they instead decided, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to choose a direction that is much, much less dramatic, much, much less compelling, and then we're going to give Ida 3 scenes, and we're going to focus on fucking Basha in this episode instead. Like, I don't know, it really, really annoys me. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Ida does have some good scenes. I already mentioned that I wholeheartedly adore the opening with every fiber of my being. One of my favorite scenes in probably all of media. I do not give a fuck. It's great. I love it. But then the other scenes, I mean, she has some good scenes. I like that she's still saying, oh, Luce is with her real family. Like, I like that they are still demonstrating that she does have, like, low self-esteem. Because, like, that's something that's, like, brought up a lot in the show. You know, Lilith is like, oh, like, Ida's with her real family. And during Ida's Requiem, when she's, like, trying to basically kill herself, you know, she's like, oh, both my kids have real families to return to. So, like, this is, like, a common theme, and I like that they're still exploring that. Also, the scene with King and Ida, and Ida's like, oh, you're growing up too fast for me, kiddo. Like, that's like, adorable. I adore it. However, I would have gladly traded both of those 2 scenes. Not the opening. You can still keep the opening with this direction that I want to go. Just make it so that King and Ida don't talk in those few months. But anyway, I would have gladly traded her other 2 scenes or reworked them to fit this, you know? So anyway, another thing that I really want to bring up, and this, I don't know if this is an issue for most people, but for me personally, the reuse of music is it really takes me out of things. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm assuming this is like a budget thing or something like that. They probably put more emphasis on to the animation, and they probably didn't have enough of a budget left for the music. But the amount of original songs in season 3, like original score, is drastically shortened, and they are instead reusing a lot of the tracks from season 2, and it really takes me out of things at times. Now, again, this only bothers me because I recognize these tracks like actively as I'm watching. I've watched these episodes so many fucking times that I will watch something immediately within seconds, pick up on a reused track and be like, oh shit, that was in Escaping Expulsion. Oh shit, that was in Hollow Mind. So I don't know if it will bother most people, but for me, it really does. And the worst cases of this are when they seem to just throw in tracks randomly. An example, they used the Flapjack death theme when Luce and Amity are just like talking in Ida's nest in this episode, and it's like, bro, why the fuck, why? I don't understand. There was a time in Thanks to Them where I'm pretty sure they used like a Lumity motif in a scene of Gus and Hunter talking, and it's like, guys, are you really? Like, I don't know. There are times that they do it well. One thing I will say that I actually really like, of course, I would have preferred if this was an original track, but if they had to reuse, this was like a perfect way to do it. They start playing music from the Amity versus Hunter Eclipse Lake fight, like when they're drawing the glyph in the ground, and it's really cool to me because not only is that track like a fucking bop, but also it means that Hunter and Luce both had the same music play when they properly used their talisman for the first time, which I think is really, really cool.
Your staffs are weird.
I can't tell what you're gonna be, but
Thank you, little friend.
So again, would I have preferred an original track? Definitely, but that was a really, really cool way to do a reuse if they had to do one, and I was like literally dancing in my seat during that. That was cool. It was awesome. So yeah, that is for the future. Definitely a lot of issues that I have with it, a lot of things that I definitely would have done differently, a lot of things that I personally deem as missed potential or maybe like a misdirection, but I do believe that the good stuff pretty much wholeheartedly outweighs any bad, so I would still give it like an 8.5, 9 out of 10. I still think it's a fucking banger. I cannot wait for Watching and Dreaming. At the same time, I don't want it to come because I don't want this show to end. I originally had a whole segment here all about the stuff that I think Watching and Dreaming needs to accomplish, but I'm going to be honest, it really dragged, so I'm just going to throw it up on the screen. This is everything that I believe the finale needs to do in order to wrap up all of its plot lines and also just be a satisfying conclusion to everything. I mean, I'm probably missing something, but I think these are pretty much the basics right here. On top of that, I hope you enjoyed me rambling about a Disney cartoon for the past hour. Feel free to leave your thoughts on the episode in the comments. If you did like this video, you can leave a like, or you don't. I don't really give a fuck. Cool. Okay. Bye.
The way you feel. One kiss is all it takes.